What if I told you that in 1978, a Soviet cosmonaut returned from space completely blind to colors, but could see radio waves with his naked eyes? What if I told you that the official records of this mission were buried so deep that even today, 47 years later, most people have never heard of Dmitry Volkov? And what if I told you that before his mysterious death in 1981, Volkov claimed he could see the thoughts of every person within a radius, transmitted as electromagnetic signals dancing before his eyes like a living aurora? This is the story they don't want you to know. The story of how the human brain, when exposed to the right conditions in the vacuum of space, can become something else entirely. Something that challenges everything we think we know about consciousness, perception, and the very nature of reality itself. My name is Sarah Chen, and I've spent the last 3 years investigating what happened to Dmitry Volkov during the 73 days he spent alone on Soyuz 6. What I discovered will change how you see the night sky forever. It began with a routine mission, at least, that's what they told the world. Soyuz 29 launched from Baikonur Cosmodrome on February 25, 1978. Dmitry Volkov, 34 years old, former test pilot, was supposed to conduct routine maintenance on the Soyuz 6 space station and return within 2 weeks, but something went wrong. Something they've been covering up for nearly 5 decades. The first sign of trouble came on day 12. Ground control lost all radio contact with Volkov. For 48 hours, Soyuz 6 became a ghost ship orbiting 300 kilometers above Earth. When communication was finally restored, Volkov's voice had changed. The mission transcripts, which I obtained through a contact in the Russian Space Archive, reveal something disturbing. Ground control. This is Volkov. I can see you. Repeat, Dmitry. You can see what I can see you, Alexei. You're sitting at console number 3. You're thinking about your wife. She's having an affair with your neighbor. The radio waves are showing me everything. This was impossible. Soyuz 6 had no cameras pointed at mission control. There was no way Volkov could know the layout of the control room, let alone the personal details of the flight director's life. But according to flight director Alexei Petrov's personal diary, which surfaced after his death in 2006, every detail was accurate. His wife was indeed having an affair. She had been for months. But this was just the beginning. Over the following weeks, Volkov's reports became increasingly bizarre. He claimed that the colors had drained from his vision during a routine spacewalk on day 15. At first, mission control assumed it was temporary blindness caused by solar radiation. But Volkov insisted he could still see perfectly. He could see better than ever before. The universe is alive with signals, he reported on day 12. Every thought, every heartbeat, every electronic device on Earth is screaming into space. I can see them all as rivers of light. Red thoughts of anger flow like lava. Blue streams of sadness cascade from the cities. Green pulses of envy dart between buildings like lightning. The mission psychologist, Dr. Yelena Smirnova, recommended immediate evacuation. But the Soviet space program had invested too much in this mission. They ordered Volkov to continue his work. This decision would haunt them forever. On day 31, Volkov made a discovery that changed everything. During a routine observation of Earth, he noticed something that shouldn't have been there. Patterns in the radio emissions from major cities. Geometric shapes that repeated across continents. Structures that suggested intelligence, but not human. Intelligence. Moscow, are you receiving this? The radio patterns from London, New York, and Tokyo are identical. Perfect geometric spirals emanating from the city centers. But here's what's disturbing. They're responding to my presence. When I focus on them, they pulse brighter. They know I'm watching. Ground control dismissed this as hallucinations caused by prolonged isolation, but Volkov's observations were about to become terrifyingly accurate. He began predicting events on Earth with impossible precision. Stock market crashes, political assassinations, natural disasters, all visible to him as disturbances in the electromagnetic spectrum. On day 5, Volkov made a request that sent chills through mission control. I need you to evacuate Moscow. There's a darkness growing in the radio patterns above the Kremlin. Something terrible is going to happen in 3 days. 3 days later, a gas explosion destroyed an apartment building in central Moscow, killing 67 people. Volkov had seen the tragedy written in radio waves days before it happened. But the most disturbing incident occurred on day 5. Volkov reported seeing radio patterns that didn't originate from Earth. Signals coming from a region of space where no satellites or spacecraft existed. Signals that seemed to be studying him as intensely as he was studying them. They're not human, he whispered during what would be his final official transmission. The patterns are too complex, too perfect, and they're getting closer. Every day, the signals grow stronger. They're learning from me, copying my brain patterns. I think they're preparing to come down. After that, official communication ceased. For 16 more days, Soyuz 6 orbited Earth in complete radio silence. The Soviet Union prepared to write off the mission as a total loss. Then, on day 73, the impossible happened. Volkov activated the return protocol and successfully landed his Soyuz capsule in the Kazakhstan steppes. But the man who emerged from that capsule was not the same man who had launched 70 days earlier. The recovery team found Volkov sitting in his chair, staring straight ahead with pupils completely white, as if cataracts had formed over his entire eyes. But when they approached, he turned to look directly at them and spoke their names before they could introduce themselves. He described their families, their fears, their deepest secrets. All information he gleaned from what he called the radio. Voices in their heads. Dr. Pavel Morozov, the chief medical officer who examined Volkov immediately after his return, kept detailed notes that were only declassified in 2010. According to Morozov's files, Volkov's brain showed unprecedented neural activity. MRI scans revealed new neural pathways that didn't exist in normal human brains. Pathways that seemed to be receiving and processing electromagnetic radiation across multiple frequency bands. It's as if his visual cortex has been rewired to interpret radio waves as visible light, Morozov wrote. He's not seeing with his eyes anymore. He's seeing with his entire brain, and his range of perception extends far beyond normal human capabilities. But the most shocking discovery came during psychological evaluation. When shown photographs of people, Volkov could not identify faces. Colors, shapes, and normal visual patterns meant nothing to him. But when those same people were brought into the room, he could describe their thoughts, their emotions, their recent conversations. He was reading the electromagnetic signatures of their neural activity like a book. The Soviet authorities immediately classified Volkov as top secret. He was confined to a research facility outside Leningrad, where scientists studied his condition while trying to replicate it in other subjects. They failed catastrophically. Of the 12 volunteers who underwent similar space exposure experiments, 8 died from radiation poisoning. 3 suffered complete mental breakdowns, and 1 simply vanished from his hospital room, leaving behind only a note that read, "They're calling me home." Meanwhile, Volkov's condition continued to evolve. By month 3 of his confinement, he claimed he could see radio transmissions from satellites in orbit, cellular phone networks across the entire Soviet Union, and even deep space radio telescopes. He began drawing detailed maps of electromagnetic patterns that stretched from Earth to the outer planets. "There's a network," he told Dr. Smirnova during one of their final sessions. "A vast communication system that connects every inhabited world in this galaxy. Earth stumbled into it when we started broadcasting radio signals in the 1920s. Now they know we're here, and they're coming to investigate." On November 15, 1981, 3 years after his return, Dmitry Volkov was found dead in his hospital room. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, but the circumstances were far from normal. His body was discovered standing upright next to the window, his white eyes fixed on the night sky. More disturbing, every electronic device in the facility had malfunctioned simultaneously at the estimated time of his death. Clocks had stopped, computers had crashed. and the backup generators had failed. But the most chilling detail was found written on the window. In his own blood, coordinates pointing to a location in deep space. And beneath them, a single word in Russian that translates to "they're here." The research facility was closed within 24 hours. All files related to Volkov's case were transferred to Moscow and have remained classified ever since. The official records state that Dmitry Volkov died from complications related to prolonged space exposure. There is no mention of his altered perception, his predictions, or his final message. But the story doesn't end there. In 2019, while researching declassified Soviet space documents, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. The coordinates Volkov had written in his blood correspond exactly to the source of the WOW signal, a powerful radio transmission detected by SETI in 1977, 1 year before Volkov's mission. A signal so strong and unusual that astronomers are still trying to explain its origin. More disturbing, radio observatories around the world have been detecting increasingly complex patterns in deep space transmissions since Volkov's death, patterns that match the geometric shapes he described seeing above Earth's cities, patterns that seem to be growing more frequent each year. Last month, I interviewed Dr. Alina Komarova, the only surviving member of the medical team that treated Volkov, now 89 years old and living in a Moscow nursing home. She agreed to speak on condition of anonymity. What she told me changed everything I thought I knew about this case. "Dmitry didn't die," she whispered, glancing nervously around the room. 3 days after his official death, I saw him in the facility corridor. His eyes were still white, but he was walking, talking. When I asked him how he was alive, he smiled and said, "Death is just another frequency, Alina. I can see all of them now." According to Komarova, Volkov had somehow learned to manipulate his own electromagnetic signature. He could appear to be dead to medical instruments while remaining fully conscious and mobile. He told me he had discovered how to exist between the radio waves, how to travel instantly anywhere on Earth by riding electromagnetic transmissions. "But that's impossible," I protested. "Is it?" she asked. "We barely understand consciousness. We barely understand the relationship between the brain and electromagnetic fields. What if Volkov found a way to convert his consciousness into pure information? What if he became something more than human?" Her final words still haunt me. Sometimes, late at night, I tune my old radio between stations. In the static, I can hear voices, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all speaking in languages I don't recognize, but sometimes, just sometimes, I hear one voice speaking Russian. It sounds like Dmitry, and he's trying to warn us about something coming. 3 weeks after that interview, Dr. Komarova was found dead in her nursing home. The cause of death was listed as natural causes, but her radio was found tuned to an empty frequency, volume turned to maximum, playing nothing but static. I've tried to verify her claims, but the trail goes cold at every turn. Official records have been scrubbed, witnesses have died or disappeared. Even the location of the research facility where Volkov was held has been removed from all maps and satellite images. But there's one piece of evidence I can't ignore. 2 months ago, radio observatories in Chile detected a transmission from the same coordinates Volkov had written on his hospital window. The signal was brief, lasting only 17 seconds, but it was unlike anything previously recorded. When processed through computer analysis, the transmission appeared to contain detailed information about Earth's population, military capabilities, and technological development. Information that could only have been compiled by someone with intimate knowledge of human civilization, someone who had been watching us for decades. The signal repeated exactly 73 times before going silent, the same number of days Volkov spent in space. I've spent 3 years investigating this story, and I still don't know what to believe. Was Dmitry Volkov a man driven insane by isolation and radiation, or did he truly discover a new form of perception that allowed him to see beyond the veil of ordinary reality? Did he die in that hospital room, Or did he find a way to transcend physical existence entirely? What I do know is this: radio telescope data shows that deep space transmissions toward Earth have increased by 400% since 1981. The signals are becoming more complex, more focused, more intelligent. And according to my calculations, they're getting closer. If Volkov was right, if there truly is a vast communication network connecting inhabited worlds throughout the galaxy, then we may have accidentally announced our presence to something far more advanced than ourselves, something that has been studying us, learning about us, preparing for us. Look up at the night sky. Between those stars, invisible to your eyes, but filling the space around you, are countless radio waves carrying information across the cosmos. Television broadcasts, cellular signals, satellite communications, all of it streaming endlessly into space. Announcing our location to anyone with the technology to listen, Dmitry Volkov claimed he could see these signals as rivers of light, flowing between worlds. He claimed he could read the thoughts and intentions carried within them. And he claimed that something out there was reading them too. His final message, written in blood on a hospital window, wasn't just coordinates, it was a warning. The question is, are we prepared to heed it? The next time you see static on an old television or hear interference on a radio, remember Dmitry Volkov. Remember the astronaut who came back from space seeing radio waves, and ask yourself, what if he was right? What if they really are coming? And what if they've been learning about us from someone who was once human, but became something else? Entirely in the depths of space, among frequencies we cannot hear and signals we cannot see, Dmitry Volkov may still be out there, still watching, still warning us, still preparing us for whatever is traveling toward Earth along those rivers of light that only he could see. The universe is vast and filled with wonders beyond our imagination, but some wonders are warnings, and some discoveries are doors that should never be opened. Dmitry Volkov opened one of those doors, and we may soon discover what has been waiting on the other side. That's the story of the astronaut who came back seeing radio waves, a man who lost his sight but gained the ability to see the invisible threads that connect all conscious beings across the galaxy. Whether he was a prophet, a madman, or something else entirely, his message remains the same. We are not alone, and we are being watched, and somewhere, in the static between radio stations, his voice may still be trying to warn us of what's coming.